everybody, it's Amber again, and I just wanted to share another video with you. I think a lot of people liked the cashew cheese sauce recipe, so I'm going to show you my other favorite recipe, and it's one of my go-to recipes that is really fast and is pretty easy to do. You only need a few ingredients, and they're ones that I happen to always have in my pantry. If you go to my Tumblr blog, which is veggiegrl.tumblr.com, you'll see that I have a page that has my pantry items on it, and they're ones that I generally go to every time, so that whenever I go to the grocery store, they're the ones I always make sure I have on hand, because then I know that I can make a bunch of recipes from them and not have to worry about wasting any ingredients. So what we're going to make today is avocado soup. It's kind of like thin guacamole. Think of it that way. It is a raw recipe, and again, you could warm it up hot enough. I don't know if really hot avocados is good, but if you wanted to, you could, I guess. But what I do in the winter for this one, you can have it cold by using cold water, which is great in the summer. And then in the winter, when you want something a little bit warmer, I use hot water, so not boiling water, but hot water instead, and that will warm your soup up. The other trick for eating raw soups that are generally room temperature or colder, sometimes it can be a little hotter than that, is heating up your bowl. So it'll put extremely hot water in my bowl, make sure it's nice and warm, so then when I put my soup in, it'll help keep it warm as well. So let's talk ingredients. What do we need? Okay, the ingredients are rather simple and very easy. Think guacamole on this one. You're going to need, this is a 1 serving recipe, so you're going to need 1 avocado, 1 Roma tomato, a handful of cilantro, about 2 slices of an onion. You could do more or less. Because this is a raw recipe, it's going to add a little bit of heat to your soup, so if you don't want it as spicy or as much of a pronounced onion flavor, then feel free to either leave it out or put less in. You're going to need lime juice. I use about a half a lime for when I make soup just for myself. If you have it in the little squirt container, I would just put a couple of squirts in and then taste and see if you want more or less. And this will help keep your soup green, because as we all know, avocados, when they sit out, they start to oxidize and they'll turn brown. The soup is still good. And you would notice more the next day, but it's just not as pretty. Spices. The kind of spices we're going to need today is cumin, garlic powder, cayenne pepper, and sea salt. And then water. And for this one, we're going to use a half a cup of warm water. Again, if you're making this in the summer, or if you want more of a cold soup, you could use cold water as well. So the best thing about this recipe is this is a throw everything in the blender and go to town, which is I love that, and it's so easy. So what I did is I threw everything in here. When it comes to the spices, I want you to do this to taste. I don't really measure my spices. I throw some in, I taste it. If I want more of something, I add it. I tend to use the cumin the most, then next would be the garlic powder, and then sea salt and the cayenne are usually about a lesser amount for me. If you want it hotter, feel free to add more cayenne, or you could throw a jalapeno in here or another pepper that has some heat to it. If it feels a little bland, add a little more salt. If you feel like you need more of that cumin, that smoky flavor, throw that in. I want you to make this recipe yours. I don't want you to eat my recipe. I want you to eat your recipe, because that's the best way of making this fun. So I've thrown everything in here. Again, I'm using the Ninja blender today. You want a higher powered blender. It doesn't have to be a fancy blender like a Vitamix or a Blendtec, but something that has a bit of power to it, because you want this to be pureed. You want this to be a soup. Now, if you feel like it's too thick, feel free to add more water. I always start with less, and you can always thin it out. But I want my soup to be hearty, because this is my whole meal for me, so I don't want it to be really thin, so I tend to go less on the water and slowly add more if I feel I need it. And then if you have really ripe tomato, then that will help add to the liquid as well. So we're going to take this and we're going to pop the top on it and lock it down. The way I do it on mine is I actually start on dough, or it's a slower amount of speed. It just kind of chops everything up. You could pulse instead to kind of chop everything up a little bit. And then I go to blend and puree, and I just kind of slowly work my way up on the speeds of the blender. And I find that makes the smoothest soup. When I tend to go to the highest amount right away, it shoots everything around and stuff gets stuck to the sides, and then it's not really getting blended in the soup. So that's what I'm going to do for mine. Each blender's different, so work with what you have. So I'm going to start with what is considered dough on mine, and just kind of chops everything up. And now I'm going to go higher and higher until it turns into a soup. So we'll be back once I get that done. Soup, you'll notice mine is much more orange than green, and the reason is my tomato was quite big, so it's going to add its color to it. So if you want it to be bright green, and I'll post a picture of one that does not have tomato in it, you'll get that way. Or the more avocado you use compared to tomato, again, will make it more green, but it's still delicious. Avocados add a lot of healthy fats, and then the tomato and all these spices, you're going to get all the nutrients because it's raw. It's a nutrient-dense food, and that's what we're going for when we eat raw, is that we want to be able to get all the nutrients intended for us in there. The more you heat it, the more you will lose those nutrients. So I encourage you to go out and try this recipe. Add whatever you want to it. If you have something else that you want to throw in there, go ahead. You can make this work for you in any way. You know, I always have avocados and I always have tomatoes in hand, and I like adding the tomato in there. I have had this without tomato, and it's just as delicious. You know, so you can do whatever you want. Again, if you want it smoother, if you want it thicker, you know, it depends on the water. Always do your spices to taste how you like them. I did have to add in for mine a little bit more water than a half of a cup, so you just might want to be aware of that. But I encourage you to go out there, eat healthy, and have fun with it.